Hi there. During the Second World War, there was a pinnacle of edged weapon development. Numerous fighting knives, killing daggers, utility knives, and clandestine weapons were designed, produced, and issued. The SOE, Special Operations Executive, which sent agents into the occupied territories, developed and issued numerous items of special kit, including weapons. Although the Fairbairn Sykes dagger was issued, it was apparent that agents required more discreet edged weapons, which led to the development of a range of highly specialised hideout blades. Here we will discuss the lapel dagger and its smaller version, the thumb dagger, which were designed as a last-ditch weapon. Numerous types of blade, handle and sheath were developed. I'll just briefly talk about the history of the lapel / thumb dagger, because there's quite a bit of disinformation over the years being published in print and also on the internet, sometimes by some fairly prominent people. For me, a prime source of research was a chap who lived in Liverpool, Terry Hagland, sadly now deceased, and he was a great expert on all aspects of knives. He bought and sold them, collected them, traded in them, researched them, and so on. This was mainly in the pre-internet era, and he was always at arms fairs and trade shows and had a shop for a while in Liverpool. And during the last couple of years of his life, we used to meet up for a coffee once a week, and he really used to give me a lot of background. During the course of his research and collecting, he'd met a lot of the commandos, the special forces, SOE people, both agents and instructors, and he had collected a great deal of information. He actually gave me a set of notes to form an add-on to the text of All In Fighting. It kind of gave some background to some of the techniques in there. Still got it. It's a valuable little notebook. And he was of the opinion that it was E.A. Sykes who was mainly responsible for the clandestine weapons, and we'll look a little bit more into that. So let's consider some of the proposed origins of the lapel dagger. And the first proposition was created by a cutlery company. Several researchers have proposed that a British knife maker came up with the dagger. For example, Dr. Windrum, in his book, wrote, originally conceived by Mappin and Webb, it was agreed to at a meeting on December 1942 by Major Sinclair at the War Office. Now, why would a cutlery company come up with the design for a clandestine weapon for a highly secret agency? Now, obviously since the war, a lot of this information's come out, but during wartime, the level of secrecy was very, very high. British society, British civil service and military and the intelligence services are highly, highly secretive. And in wartime, even more so. The name SOE wasn't even used on a lot of the interagency correspondence. They had cover names, and when they did deal with industrial contractors, it all went to just a cover address at the War Office. So how a cutlery company, which didn't really specialize in military or kind of fighting knives at all, suddenly come up with the idea that secret agents might need these is very far-fetched. The normal procedure would be for an agency or military unit to generate a proposal for manufacture rather than the other way around. Another quote, although SOE devised and developed its own equipment, orders were usually placed with outside contractors for its manufacture. That quote is from the Secret Agent's Handbook by Mark Seaman, who is a very noted historian and researcher. Second proposition, it was created by Fairbairn and Sykes. According to Lieutenant Colonel LJC Wood, quote, I helped to get Fairbairn and Sykes over to us from the Shanghai riot police. That's a quote from the book Station 12, which was the centre for the production of such devices, explosives, silent killing firearms, all sorts of agent equipment, and also later for the commandos and SAS, Aston House. Now, again, it's all in a book, and it was really where the toys for the resistance were made. And we come to the crux, another quote from Colonel Wood. Fairbairn and Sykes also invented the thumb or crotch knife. The sheaths for these were made by local Aston cobbler Arthur Akers. In my opinion, that's the definitive version. Now, Fairbairn and Sykes arrived in England in late 1940, and Fairbairn left in the spring of 42. So that meeting with Mappin and Webb in December 42 was much later than the Aston design phase. What happened was that the designs created at Aston and other SOE establishments would be sent to industry for mass production under War Office contracts. The War Office being the contact point between industry and the secret units. Proposition 3, so we've narrowed it down to Fairbairn and Sykes. Terry Hagland's views that Fairbairn was the guy who was most concerned with these arcane clandestine weapons, and his career subsequent to this phase continued both in SOE and with the Jedburghs, the American and French contribution to special forces. Leroy Thompson in an article says, I have in my collection E.A. Sykes's lapel dagger, which bears his chop and which he carried in a carved ivory case. Now, Mr. Thompson does not claim Shanghai lineage for this knife, but the ivory case as well as the Chinese ideogram or chop do suggest it strongly. Finally, in his service resume written by Fairbairn at the end of his attachment to OSS, he writes, I have established the use of several weapons used especially for close contact fighting. Some of these weapons are known as the Fairbairn-Sykes fighting knife, the Kosh spring baton, the spike necklace, the fair sword, and the Fairbairn-Millicent fighting knife. No mention of lapel or thumb daggers, and I'm sure that if he had designed them, they would be on the list. So to sum up, it's my contention that it was Eric Sykes was the fundy, the expert behind these items of clandestine cutlery. Let's go on to operational considerations. These daggers, the lapel and thumb daggers, were designed for SOE agents, then adopted by other prone to capture units such as the commandos and the SAS. Later, the OSS, the American counterpart, also issued their own versions. A prime consideration for the agent was the risk of compromise. At a search carrying such items or weapons of any kind could signal the imminent arrest and captivity, and it would blow the op. So there had to be a balance between the ability to pass yourself off as seemingly innocent and go through a check, or have items that will allow you to escape and evade. So it was up to the individual agent. Now, one of the most renowned SOE agents was Thomas, and he went over several times, but was captured, was tortured, and didn't break under torture. Tremendous brave man. And the aforementioned Mark Seaman did a biography of his called The Bravest of the Brave, and he used to carry a penknife and a knuckle duster. So everyone made their own choice. The sheath and the knives came with a leather sheath, and you may be able to see that there are holes in it, and that enables it to be stitched to clothing behind the lapel, within the sleeve, in the hem, the waistband of the trousers. The thumb dagger could be secreted in the fly area of the trousers and so on, the hat band, wherever the agent desired. Access was ideally done in advance or by stealth, for example, while being subdued or beaten or transported, handcuffed. So thought might be given to having escape aids in parts of the body accessible if you're handcuffed or restrained. In an emergency, a quick draw, if you'd practiced it, could take an enemy by surprise. So the options include escape. At a checkpoint, if the agent thought he was likely to be arrested, the idea was to break contact by sudden attack on the nearest guard. First consideration was available cover and concealment. Did little good to attack one enemy only to be shot by the others. Trees, bush or crowds would allow escape once contact was broken. Now again, the consideration is, at a lot of checkpoints, you might be wheeling your bicycle or carrying work items, and this you're passing for a local, or you've come out of a railway station, and basically a lot of the time they're just checking to see you're not carrying a radio or you haven't got a Sten gun slung under your overcoat. It's no more thorough than that. Okay. Now, if you go into a second level of search where they're feeling the seams of your clothes and so on, and you've got a problem. So for most checks, you probably would get away with it. And then if your papers were being subject to scrutiny and they weren't passing it, or your accent wasn't right, or they were, the German authorities were highly suspicious of people, they had that in mind, then this breaking contact idea might be have to come into play. As the enemy security policeman reached for your papers or to seize you, slash rapidly across the back of his hand in forward and back series. This induces shock and blood loss, allowing your escape. The technique, there is a diagram for this which I'll show you. And just give me a minute. There it is. as you'll see, there is a piece of cord here, and you loop that round the index finger, and the knife can be hidden in your palm. But you can quickly draw it, and because of the cord, it acts as to assist a thrust. If he's wearing gloves, the face or neck was suggested. Slashing across the forehead gives a cascade of blood into the eyes, denying his vision and allowing escape. Slashing the throat or neck causes great psychological shock, and pursuit is unlikely. If you damage the cephalic arteries, blood vessels, tremendous hemorrhage, also the trachea, tremendous inhibiting of the breathing and panic and so on. And if circumstances allow a quick stab to the thigh, does deter pursuit to a great extent. So that's to aid escape. Secondly, silent killing. The agent or network leader might have to eliminate traitors or informers or neutralize sentries. Normally this would be done with the Fairbairn Sykes dagger or the silent well rod pistol, but lacking them, the lapel dagger could be utilized. And the grip that I showed, either pinch grip like so or between two fingers, so in effect you've got a push dagger or punch dagger, was suggested. And targets include under the jaw, striking upwards into the ear canal, the groove parallel to the spine at the back, going for the brainstem, and the subclavian, down into the subclavian. And they're all highly vulnerable places. And thirdly, suicide. An agent captured and facing torture by the Sicherheitsdienst or the milice, who were both very brutal in their interrogation methods, and not wanting to suffer, and also not wanting guys who realised that they might talk and give away their compatriots and the organisation, might opt for suicide. Now, an L pill or lethal tablet was issued, but many agents declined them before going into the field. But then at the end of the day, the shock of capture and so on might bring the realisation that to take the suicide route out. He would be frisked for firearms, handcuffed and thrown into a van. He or she could access the hidden blade, stab it into one of your own major arteries, the femoral or the subclavian, and cause massive hemorrhage. In those days, you know, you're going to die pretty quickly. So that was kind of the wartime scene for the lapel and thumb daggers. The modern scene, these items have formed the inspiration for a plethora of post-war edged weapons. For example, renowned French designer Fred Perron produces some modern copies, and his are every bit as classic. And several innovative weapons of his own. For example, this killing needle on a chain. It's a neck knife device with a paracord handle. Very nice. And some other, he sent me a couple of bits that he doesn't want shown publicly, but are equally as useful as the original SOE kit. And in some ways, the hideaway knife could be considered the epitome of the clandestine knife development. With numerous covert carriage options and accessories, it's a true 24/7 weapon. Now, a warning, caveat emptor. Genuine wartime blades face very high prices from collectors. Because of this, a thriving trade in fake/repro blades has grown up. And before parting with your cash, make sure that the knife actually existed during the war. There was a source who generated loads and loads of items which were alleged to have been issued, and they were just merchandise to be sold, really. There's a lot of fakes in this, you're aware. So just make sure that what you're buying is a genuine wartime product. There are modern repros, and some of them are really good. This one I've got here is a modern reproduction, or more modern. It wasn't wartime, and it's really good. And I know that it's modern, and I didn't pay a crazy price for it. So that's it. Thanks to Nick Engelin for helping with the research on this and some photos of some of the kits, and also, as I mentioned, the late Terry Hagland, and also a lot of the guys in the Combatives community for background information over many years on this subject. Hope you enjoyed it.